If their blood didn't boil under the black suns of Nara, ours will make a fine substitute. The words echoed through the void, transmitted across light years in all directions, a grim promise from the captain of the human warship Vanguard. The crew, hardened men of steel and nerve, knew the weight of those words. Though none flinched as they rang through the bulkheads, they had waited long for this moment, their chance to face the Draen, the scourge of the galaxy, and repay them for the atrocities they had committed. The Gyrans were a race of conquerors, their reach spanning dozens of star systems and leaving nothing but ruin in their wake. They were creatures born of shadow and fire, their massive war fleets unstoppable, their technology beyond comprehension to most. Empires crumbled before them, entire species driven to extinction or slavery. They had once been myth, a terror whispered about in the darkness of space, until they descended upon the galaxy with a fury unmatched in recorded history. But humanity was different. Humans had heard the stories, had watched as the Draen consumed their neighbors, growing ever closer to Earth's sector. They were not blind to the impending doom. Where others had begged for mercy or sought to hide, humanity had prepared. Earth's resources were pooled, minds from every corner of the planet working in unison. They knew there would be no negotiations, no surrender, and no salvation from the stars. Only one truth remained. Survival would be on humanity's terms alone. The Vanguard had been forged in the crucible of desperation, a ship unlike any other in human history. It was a behemoth built not just for war, but for the utter annihilation of anything that dared to threaten humanity. Armed with weapons that bent the fabric of space, shields that could withstand the heart of a star, and engines powered by the fury of 1,000 suns, it was humanity's answer to the Draen menace. And now, it was humanity's spear pointed directly at the heart of the Draen Empire. "Captain, we're approaching the outer defense grid," reported Lieutenant Harris, his voice steady, betraying none of the tension that gripped the crew. Captain Marcus Locke nodded, his eyes fixed on the view screen, displaying the cold expanse of space ahead. The Draen defense grid was legendary, a web of automated battle stations, mines, and patrol ships that had shredded countless invaders long before they even saw the Draen homeworld. But the Vanguard was no ordinary ship, and Locke was no ordinary captain. "Initiate cloak," Locke ordered, his voice as cold as the void around them. The Vanguard shimmered and vanished from sight, the advanced stealth technology enveloping the ship in an imperceptible bubble. To the Draen sensors, there was nothing there, just empty space. But the humans knew better. They knew the Draen relied on their superior technology, their arrogance blinding them to the possibility of a threat that could bypass their defenses. "We're in position," Harris reported. "Deploy the spikes," Locke commanded. The Vanguard's hull opened in several places, and sleek black projectiles were launched, each embedding itself in the floating battle stations and patrol ships. These were not weapons in the traditional sense, but rather infiltration devices. Once attached, they began to burrow through Draen technology, hacking into systems, overriding controls, and turning the once deadly defense grid into a puppet of the Vanguard's will. "Spikes are active, Captain," said Harris. "We're in control of the grid." "Good," Locke said, a rare smile crossing his face. "Open fire." The Vanguard's weapons came to life, but not in the way the Draen would have expected. Instead of unleashing a barrage of missiles or energy blasts, the ship used the defense grid against itself. Battle stations turned on each other, firing at their allies. Patrol ships exploded in sudden, unprovoked attacks, and mines detonated in carefully calculated patterns, destroying the Draen defenses without a single shot fired from the Vanguard itself. The Vanguard's engines hummed steadily as the ship traversed the vast emptiness of space. Though the battle had ended, its echoes lingered in the minds of the crew. They had faced death, stared into the abyss, and emerged victorious. Yet for many, the true gravity of their actions was only beginning to settle. The Draen Empire, a force that had subjugated countless worlds, was no more. The legacy of their terror had been reduced to scattered debris floating aimlessly in the void. Captain Marcus Locke remained at the bridge, his expression unreadable as he observed the stars through the viewport. The silence was profound, broken only by the soft hum of the ship's systems. Each member of his crew knew the magnitude of their mission, the price that had been paid, and the countless lives saved by their actions. "Captain," Lieutenant Harris said, breaking the stillness, "Earth Command is requesting an update on our status. They're also asking for a formal debrief once we return." Locke nodded slowly, his voice steady. "Inform them that the mission was a success. The Drayan threat has been neutralized. We're returning to Earth with all systems operational." Harris relayed the message, his hands moving deftly over the console. Despite the victory, the exhaustion was evident on every face in the room. Months of preparation, weeks of tension, and hours of intense battle had taken their toll. Commander Steele approached Locke, his grizzled features softened slightly by a rare smile. "You did good, Marcus. They'll sing songs about this day. Hell, they'll build monuments." Locke gave a faint chuckle, shaking his head. "Let them sing if they want. But the real credit belongs to the crew. Every man and woman aboard this ship put everything on the line. This victory is theirs." Steele placed a hand on Locke's shoulder. "Maybe, but it takes a captain to steer the ship. Don't forget that." As the Vanguard pressed onward, Locke allowed himself a brief moment to reflect. He thought of the countless worlds the Drayan had ravaged, the cries of those who had suffered under their rule. Those voices, silenced by the iron grip of tyranny, had been avenged. Yet, in the quiet aftermath of war, he also considered the cost. How many lives had been lost on both sides? How many futures extinguished in the flames of battle? "Captain, we're approaching Earth Sector," Harris reported. Locke straightened, his hands clasped behind his back. The sight of the blue planet, serene, vibrant, alive, filled the view screen. It was a stark contrast to the charred remnants of Nara, the Drayan homeworld they had left behind. As the ship began its descent, cheers erupted throughout the Vanguard. For the first time since their departure, there was a collective sense of relief and anticipation. They were going home. Earth's defense grid hailed them, and Locke exchanged the necessary credentials before the ship was granted clearance. It wasn't long before the Vanguard docked at one of Earth's orbital stations, a massive hub bustling with activity. Even from the bridge, Locke could see the celebration unfolding below. The galaxy had been watching, waiting, and hoping. Humanity's triumph against the Drayan was more than a victory. It was a message. Humanity was no longer prey, but a force to be reckoned with. Admiral Graves awaited them at the docking platform, flanked by a delegation of high-ranking officials and soldiers. As Locke disembarked, the Admiral stepped forward, his hand outstretched. "Welcome home, Captain," Graves said, his voice filled with genuine respect. "You've done us proud." Locke grasped the Admiral's hand firmly, his gaze steady. "Thank you, Admiral. But this victory belongs to all of us." Graves nodded. "Perhaps, but the Vanguard's mission will be remembered as the turning point. You didn't just defeat the Drayan. You inspired a galaxy." The words carried weight, and Locke felt their truth. Yet, he knew their journey wasn't entirely over. The galaxy might celebrate today, but the scars left by the Drayan would take time to heal. Worlds would rebuild, alliances would be forged, and the lessons of this war would shape the future. As the celebrations continued, Locke found a quiet moment to himself, standing by a viewport that overlooked Earth. He thought of the lives lost, the battles fought, and the resilience of humanity. Though the Drayan were gone, the universe was vast and unpredictable. New challenges would arise, and humanity would need to remain vigilant. For now, though, there was peace. And for the first time in what felt like an eternity, Locke allowed himself to exhale and embrace the moment. The stars shimmered in the distance, silent witnesses to the tale of the Vanguard, the ship that defied the darkness and lit a path for hope.